And we could even just skip the intro even.
No, we got
Okay.
it. We got it.
All right. Or we could just jump into it. All right. Just a test. Welcome to the Morning Startup, where we believe you can develop neural pathways that will awaken you to a full heart and clear mind. Live with joy, health, and success. I'm your host, Michael Oliver, and I'm joined by my co-hosts, Deborah Dyack and Maria Gosher. Good morning.
Good morning.
So Maria is off today. She's some well-deserved downtime. So it'll be Deborah and myself co-hosting today's session. And we are so excited to have Jeff Howard with us. So welcome, and thank you all for your patience as we had a little bit of a technical glitch with our computers, but we got it all figured out. Jeff, thank you so much for your patience. We really appreciate that as well. I'm going to read a little bit of Jeff's bio, and then we're going to get into it. Honestly, there's probably not enough time in this particular podcast episode to cover everything that Jeff has to offer, but I think that I'll leave it to Jeff to kind of decide where he would like to guide us and what he would like to share with us. But his journey is very interesting, and I'll ask him to share a little bit about his journey, where he started and how he ended up where he is today. But Jeff Howard bought his first singing bowl at a local shop in the early 2000s after attending the University of Nebraska. And over the time, it has built into quite a business for Jeff. He organized and created Silver Sky Imports since 2003. It has grown from 50 bowls to a warehouse of more than 10,000 bowls, as well as other meditation products such as gongs and chimes and drums and other things. And we'll have Jeff speak to that as well. It's quite an amazing journey when you begin a business and you find your passion and you build it from something about learning about one singing bowl to where now you have an organization where you're not only teaching, but also continuing to learn. In 2014, Jeff developed a technique for his business called the Vibrational Sound Therapy, where he officially founded the Vibrational Sound Therapy Association, or the VSA. And Jeff, you can kind of help me guide our way through this, but I also want to mention that you have a number of charities that you're involved in. And I'd like you to, at some point through this conversation, share about some of your charities that are happening in India. I know in Tibet as well, you're working with the elephants there and using sound with the elephants. And that is just very, very fast. In Thailand, I'm sorry, in Thailand. So very interesting, but so to start us off, I know Deborah's also got some questions that she's going to be jumping in here with, but can you share us a little bit how your journey started and what got you into this field?
Absolutely. But with all of our technical stress this morning, I'd like to start off with just a little sound meditation.
That would be beautiful. Thank you.
Get us all in the mood.
Excellent.
And what I'd like for everybody to do is I'm just going to ring the bowl one time and just take 3 deep breaths. Just focus on your breath. Very, very deep. I want them to be loud breaths, and everybody in the audience can participate in this as well too at home. And this is a great exercise for everybody to do every time you wake up every day or enter a stressful situation. If you don't have a singing bowl, you can just focus on a word. You can focus on an intention, a mantra, anything like that. Just take 3 deep breaths. Mm-hmm. When I start anything, like even like doing this podcast, I'm excited. I'm nervous. We were having these computer issues. Everything else is going on, and I'm here to talk about relaxation, so I don't want to talk really fast and get everybody pumped up this morning.
Right. No, that's a great suggestion and very good thing to be mindful of. So thank you for sharing that. Super.
Yeah, so my journey, one thing that I just wrote down, I like to take notes when people talk because otherwise I forget, but you said find your passion. And I find that interesting because I did find my passion, but I didn't ever know what my passion was,
Hmm.
to begin with before I found it. So it's kind of a interesting thing. I like to talk a lot with our students about business things because a lot of us that are in the healing arts,
Hmm.
uh, we don't know how to bring it out to the world
Right.
because our minds are different than the business type of a person.
Hmm.
And I came more at this of a business perspective where when I was younger, school wasn't for me at all. I had trouble learning in school. I had trouble in that environment. And going in and thinking about, I wanted to start a business. I didn't know what it was at that
Hmm.
time, but I wanted to start a business. So I think that also brings us to intention as
Hmm.
well, that even though I didn't know what my passion was, if I knew what my passion was, I tried to manifest that in my life. But since I didn't know what it was, I knew my passion was to do something with business. Every
Hmm.
time I worked with or worked for someone, I was always the annoying employee that would offer too many suggestions. My managers hated me,
Right.
absolutely hated me because
Hmm.
I worked all sorts of jobs. I worked in restaurants and I was a waiter, and there'd be something that customers wanted or needed, and I would talk to management about it or a change we needed to make, and they'd say, you don't know what you're talking about. You've never
Right.
done
Right.
this before. And so I kind of spent my life with that and really wanted to start a business. So that was my first passion, was the business aspect of it. I wasn't a very spiritual person when I was in my 20s when I started this all.
Right.
I had a lot of stress in my younger part of my life. Grew up in a family environment with just a lot of stress. My parents didn't know how to deal with stress,
Hmm.
so they dealt with stress mostly through anger and through yelling.
Hmm.
And that vibration has stuck with me through
Hmm.
life, and I've had to really work with that. So all of a sudden, a friend of mine, when I was in school, he was working at an import shop, and I always loved different cultures and loved different items from different parts of the world, and I always had a passion for traveling at some point in my life. And this friend of mine worked at this import shop, and I just loved everything there. And this one day, he showed me the singing bowls, and they had like 5 of them in the shop. And he brought the bowl, and he took the other mallet. I think I have one around here.
That's great.
Took a mallet like this and started, you know, just taking this slow vibration, starting the bowl, and just got this beautiful sound out of it. And I was like, I've just got to have that. That's really cool.
Right.
And that's all I thought of it.
Hmm.
Nothing healing about it. It was just a really cool thing to me. But then it came something about myself when he handed me the bowl. He made that beautiful sound,
Hmm.
and then I started playing it. And sorry, everybody, for that to wake you up on a Sunday. But I started playing it, and I couldn't get it at all. Couldn't get it. And in fact, a week later, I took the bowl to a dinner party. Had like 8 friends around, and everybody's getting this beautiful sound out of the bowl. And it comes back to me. I won't play that sound for you again. Yeah, the same thing happened. It took me 3 weeks to play that first bowl. But every time I handed it to somebody, they just immediately be able to get this wonderful
Hmm.
song out of it. So it's an interesting thing that I look back and that taught me myself of I was too anxious, I was too nervous, I was
Hmm.
too excited, I wasn't able to slow down very easily. All these types of things that I needed to work through in my life that bowl taught me,
Hmm.
which is just a pretty cool thing. And I think that that's something that people get so attracted to the bowls with,
Hmm.
because it's not only do they have a pleasing sound, but they also have a lesson to teach you as well too.
Well, I think what's interesting is with the bowls is the person playing the bowls, the practitioner gets as much out of it as someone who is receiving. And
Uh,
it's a beautiful opportunity.
Yeah, it's a great opportunity for people, and I'm really excited because of how I started this with the business aspect of it all. Not thinking about money and not thinking about Ferraris, but just thinking about I wanted to go my own way and
Hmm.
create my own thing in my life. And So now to be able to have these classes with people and then bring that to other people and to see people starting businesses every week. There's somebody starting a new business, starting a new website. They have this new idea, and that's so rewarding to see. But back a little bit about my past is one thing I was thinking about recently is I started doing online classes. So I've been recording for the online classes recently. You know, the world has changed so much, and change is so hard for all of us. We get stuck in our ways. However, there's pathways for all of us to get out of wherever we are right now. The problem is we didn't think about them in 2019, and we thought about them after we were forced to do it. And I had been thinking about online classes for 10 years. And guess when I finally started to record them? It was this year.
Yeah.
So, it kind of forced me to get into that. I have to adapt right now. But what was interesting also in my youth, when I was 8 years old, I went to a Catholic grade school, and I had a music teacher there. And I wasn't that interested in learning music, but I was very interested in listening to music. But one thing that she would do once a week on a Tuesday morning is she would have all the students lie down, and she would play chimes, bells, drums, soft instruments. And as I was recording the class, I was thinking about this moment, and it was something I completely forgot about. Like my first sound bath, or my first experience with a sound meditation. It was such an awesome experience because it was very foreign, not something that would have gone on in my household at all, or something that I would be normally familiar with. And that's kind of how things started, I guess, even before I received that first bowl, was that I had that sound meditation. And nobody ever told me that I could sit in some place, be quiet, and clear my thoughts. And, if you think of something as you're meditating, just let it go. And then just focus on your intention, focus on your word, focus on the sound you're using. So that's kind of how I started with everything. That one bowl that I bought at that one shop led to a trip to Nepal. And on that trip to Nepal, I was so amazed by the culture there. It was so different for me. I'd been to Jamaica before, was about the extent of my foreign travel. And then all of a sudden I'm in Nepal, and it's just a totally, totally different. Everything is so different.
Yeah.
And it was such an amazing experience for me. And I went there and I was like, I'm going to get like 10 of these bowls. I really want to get a lot of them. This is at the point when I thought 10 was a lot.
Right. Versus 10,000, right?
So somebody had told me, one of the dealers there had told me that, well, if I buy 10, I don't get much of a discount, but if I buy 50, I can get a discount. And a little bit more about myself is I live alone, but I have a Costco and a Sam's Club membership. So I always am stocked up on things. If you come to my house, there's plenty of toilet paper, plenty of supplies. Even when they were running out of toilet paper, I had plenty left. So I like to buy a bargain or stock up on things. And that started my best addiction I had, which was to singing bowls, the most positive addiction. So those 50 bowls turned into, next I imported 100, and then went back there and selected 500, and 500 led to 5,000, and 5,000 led to 10,000. And now I've manufactured and distributed over 100,000 singing bowls worldwide. So,
how did you make that transition, Jeff, to, because now you make your own bowls, I take it, like you'll make your own bowls. So how was that transition to where you were importing bowls and bringing those in, and then making that transition to, was there something about you manufacturing them yourself that would eventually lead to maybe a different type of vibration, frequency, sound, something that you could put into the manufacturing it yourself that you weren't getting from the Nepal bowls? Or
yeah, all of that, and then also intention as well into those. What's very interesting is the bowls themselves are often referred to as Tibetan singing bowls.
Right.
They haven't ever had a bowl in Tibet that wasn't imported from another place, mostly Nepal.
Okay.
And when you think about it logically about where Tibet is, it's in the mountains. There's not very many trees where it is, and we need fire to burn the metal or to melt the metal to make the bowls itself. So it's actually an impossible type thing to make in Tibet. In Tibet, or if you think of China, in China, they use china, porcelain, different things like that as food or eating dishes. And so that's kind of an interesting story that some people don't realize. These Tibetan singing bowls, actually, they've never come from Tibet. Now,
Right.
today they're sold there, but
Mhm.
they're brought in. So originally, the singing bowls were originally used as eating devices. So they were used as cooking devices.
Okay.
The bronze worked very, very well as a cooking device. You could have your rice in one bowl, you could have your vegetables in another bowl, and so on and so forth, and put those on the fire. And so that's how they originally started. So the antique singing bowls that you see today are actually coming from people's kitchens.
Wow.
So that was one thing that I had, that I wanted to create my own bowls, was A, because the antique bowls themselves are running a short supply, but
Mhm.
also the bowls that are made today are just made. They're not made to be anything. If
Okay.
you get a bowl that comes from India or Nepal, it's just simply manufactured. There's no thought other than to have it have sound and to give it a bowl shape. So the reason why I had developed my own bowls was because I developed the protocols for the Vibrational Sound Association. I couldn't find two antiques or even two modern bowls that would have a similar frequency to them,
Mhm.
because they were all so different. And so that was the main reason why I started manufacturing my own, but also on a fair trade aspect.
Mm.
All is completely backwards when we talk about, compared to where we are today, when we talk about rules or regulations, or if we think of things like OSHA. Your typical metal worker in Nepal is very comfortable to work shirtless, in
Mhm.
shorts, with no shoes, no gloves, no ear protection, no eye protection. I mean, that's the way they've been doing this for
Sure.
hundreds of years.
Yep.
So originally, actually that first trip to Nepal, I thought, wow, we got to change everything. I got to get people in full body suits. You know, we've got to have ear protection on everybody. We have to have gloves. And then all of a sudden, you know, you imagine like the space suit or something is
Right.
how we're changing this. But that was my idea, coming from a Western perspective. What I found out, though, as I tried to implement something like that, not that extreme, was that I couldn't get any workers to work for me. It wasn't comfortable to them.
Mhm.
So I took a different approach to that, an educational approach to it. So it's like, okay, so you're using a hammer every day and you're hammering these bowls, and so that's going to affect your hearing. So let's talk about your hearing and ways to protect your hearing, you know, with using earplugs or things like that. Then the same thing with using gloves and
Mhm.
you know, different safety equipment and things like that. So that was the two main reasons. A, I wanted to be able to create bowls that I could get within certain frequency ranges that were
Right.
consistent. And then also I really wanted to change the manufacturing process as much as I could to help the people that are making these bowls. Because the intention of that, you know, if the people are being taken care of and now we're using these bowls as a therapeutic or healing instrument with our
Mhm.
clients, then that intention just keeps
Sure.
rippling out.
Yep.
Can you talk about the metals, the purity of your bowls compared to the bowls that traditionally have the 7 different metals, and what makes your bowls therapeutic compared to the external sound as opposed to the internal? Because I know that your metals are pure and you use.
Yeah, the 7 different metals is mostly a myth. Most of the bowls that are sold today are 7 metals. And in fact, if you go back and look at my website from 10 years ago or so, I ended up changing a lot of the content on my website because a lot of those things were just myths that came through.
Mhm.
So the 7 metals is, it's only an accident if it were to happen for the most part. And here's a couple of reasons why. Number one is that originally these were used as eating instruments. So you don't want mercury and lead in an eating instrument.
Right.
You wouldn't want those in there. And those are 2 of the 7 metals.
Mhm.
We also couldn't have 1.3 billion people in India if they were ingesting a lot of mercury and lead every time they ate.
Right.
So that's something to think about too, is that it's hard sometimes when we've learned so much about these things and everybody talks about it, the 7 metals. And the first supplier I had, you know, he's like, oh, my bowls are 7 metals. I have some that are 10 metals. And it's like, wow, as an American, 10 is better than 7, right?
Right.
He used to tell me that the truck from Tibet was going over the mountains to Nepal, and we had to wait for the truck to come. You know, and all these. So even the people over there would tell me stories I would tell my customers this, and I was really unaware. There's no real you can't really take a truck over Everest and
Right.
if you think of things like that logically, it's like, okay, that makes sense.
Right.
So the therapeutic bowls themselves, and the reason why I designed those was for vibration. They're a little bit different than normal bowls, as far as normal bowls are going to be a little bit louder. They're going to give more sound than vibration. The idea of vibrational sound therapy is to have is more of the vibration. That's why I put vibrational before the sound, because that's so important on a cellular level. Because we can relax our minds a lot with the sound. The sounds will help us relax our minds during a session. But as far as our bodies need it too, and our bodies are in a state of vibration. We know this. Every cell, every atom is in a state of vibration. But if your mind mentally kind of puts your body into a state of stress, your body also needs that, that sound or that vibration as well too. So I wanted to create something that was more vibratory. So just spent a lot of time doing that, working with a factory specifically that would work with me on creating bowls that were within certain frequency ranges, and then also to be more vibratory on the body. The metals of the bowls that I have are bronze, which is copper and tin. And that's the metals of most bronze musical instruments are copper and tin. So we can think about in China, they've been making gongs for thousands of years. They use about the same metal mixture. Cymbals on a guitar on a drum set, like your cymbals, those are made out of bronze. Usually about 80% copper and 20% tin is the makeup of those.
Okay.
So that's about what the pure bowls are made out of. We add a little bit of silver to them because it helps to work with the metal.
Okay.
And, the silver is just a little softer metal as well too. But that's another reason why you kind of don't want 7 metals. You've got a couple in there that are a little iffy, but then also you've got gold, which is soft. So if you had a bowl that was completely gold, it would make no sound at all.
Okay.
Or silver as well too. We don't even have silver jewelry that we have that's pure silver. Silver jewelry that's sold today is 92.5.
All right.
What do they add? Does anybody know what they add to that?
I don't.
Copper. So copper is what makes it stronger.
Okay.
And that way your silver jewelry won't just easily fall off your bracelet, won't fall off very easily or be too soft.
What led you into the vibrational therapy? What led you into understanding about vibration and how that's connected to human wellness? And I guess explain a little bit about VSA, Vibrational Sound Association, what you promote, because I think it's fascinating. The more we learn about vibration and frequency.
It wasn't something that I was specifically looking for until I found the bowls. So at first the first bowl found me, and then I found more bowls just to join that bowl. And then I really wanted to start learning about this. And what's interesting is so much that's taught in the West brings Eastern culture that some people, they don't know even exactly what the Eastern culture is. For example, Buddhism. There's a lot of people that will mix Buddhism with the bowls and things like that, but it's actually very rare in the East that Buddhism is mixed with the bowls. And I've been on a hunt. I've been on a hunt. I go on a temple hunt everywhere I go, because I want to see where the bowls are. And they've changed where they've become a little bit more popular over time, where you'll see them in a temple. But actually, traditionally in Japan and China are the places that they normally would have bowls in a temple. And they ring the bowl like similar to Catholics with holy water before they enter a church, to clear themselves and to cleanse themselves with sound before entering the temple. So that's what's kind of interesting about that, is learning about all of that history about the bowls and how they're really not something that's brought into much Buddhist culture.
Right.
It has been there. We don't know exactly how long and what segments and who's using it. But it hasn't been very popular. In fact, it's been more popular now that it's brought from the West now back to India and the world. And then Vibrational Sound Association, that started with me for just everybody else that I talked to really wanted protocols. They wanted information of how to put things together. And I had worked with clients and had just great results with clients. I wanted to figure out a way to put that into protocols that I could teach to people. About, I guess it was about 12 years ago or so, I was at a show. It was a spa show in Florida. And it was very interesting. I learned a lot there. first of all, I get into my booth and I've got all the bowls around me, and then I see the people across from me set up, and they have a spray tan booth. So they have a girl in a bikini and a guy in a swim trunks, and they're all spray tanned up and everything else. And here I am with my bowls, and I wasn't sure if I was in the right place. But it was interesting as I talked to people in the spa industry, because this was starting to become popular over a decade ago in the spa industry.
Oh.
Everybody wanted a protocol. They're like, well, I love the sound of these bowls, but we don't know, like, what do I do with it? And I was like, you need to be like the rest of my customers. Use your intention and just go with it. So that's what kind of started me into the education aspect, was just thinking about how to create something that can be variable, that people can take. You don't have to do my exact protocols, but if you follow the exact protocols, you'll have generally really good success with.
Mm-hmm.
That's really what brought me into the education, was that so many people were just asking about it and asking for it. And still today, there's not a lot of information out there.
Yeah.
Can you explain how the bowls and brain entrainment, how that works, how that helps to the healing process?
Yeah, I mean, there's not exact scientific evidence of that, but there's scientific evidence of things like binaural beats, if you've heard about those.
Oh yeah.
And those have been studied since the 1800s for quite a long time. And if anybody is not familiar with binaural beats, you can look up on YouTube and get a bazillion examples of them. But those binaural beats, basically what it is two different frequencies. You have one frequency going to one ear, another frequency going into another ear, and your brain does this magical math between the two frequencies and takes the difference of the two and then can sync to those frequencies. But actually, a more simple way of thinking of brainwave entrainment is listening to music. If you see a teenager driving in a convertible, let's say it's a fast BMW or something like that, and they're blasting music and you're at a stoplight with them, how fast are they going to go when that light turns green? Hey, we've got the car and a teenager, but also maybe they're listening to some loud music, and that music affects you as well too. If you go to the gym and you want to work out and you want to really, really have a really, really good workout, you want to gain a lot of muscle, you're pumping a lot of iron, you're not going to listen to Mozart. You want to use that sound to help to pump yourself up. You want to increase your cortisol levels. You want to increase your stress in that moment so that you can have a good workout. So I think that it's more simply defined that way of how your brain will follow the sound. What's so great about the bowls, and like we were talking about binaural beats, is you get multiple tones out of the handmade bowls. So each one of these bowls doesn't have one pure sound, like that would be more of one tone. They have multiple tones that are intermingling with each other. So I don't have exact science on this yet. We're still studying all of this, but I believe you get some effects with the binaural beats. You get some effects with brain entrainment, just because we all get entrained to sounds. If you've met somebody that lives in a large city, they have a different vibration than the farmer that lives 2 hours from the outside of town. I mean, you bring those two people together, it's a completely different vibration.
It's really interesting that you say that. Yesterday, actually, I went out to my cousin's place. He has 50 acres outside of the city. And we had that exact same conversation. And it was, in fact, when I pulled into his property, I just sat there for a minute. I shut off the car, put down the windows, and I just enjoyed that space. Because where I came from, the city, with all the traffic and the noise and all of that, really, to your point about how it has that effect on the physical body, I mean, I really did experience that. And then I got out there and I'm sitting out in his woods and I'm spending some time talking to him, and it just really created a whole different experience for me. So just that reminded me, as you talked about that it really does. Sound impacts us far more than we probably really realize, and impacts us far more, not only on an emotional level, but also a physical level. And if we're not fully aware of that, then it will be hard for us to mitigate sound in a way that can be more helpful to us and less damaging if we don't even know about it. And that's why I think the work that you're doing is so critically important, and why I like by having you on the podcast and getting this information out there, because I think that people need to know more about sound and its effect on the body. A question that I'm thinking about is when you talk about the bowls, I've had experience with the bowls through Deborah, because she took your course and she got certified, and she's now collecting her bowls and she's playing those bowls. And I've been a recipient of some of the sound work that she's doing. It's been fantastic. Does one bowl have one frequency, or can you adjust the frequencies within one bowl?
You could adjust the frequencies within one bowl. And the great example that I gave you a moment ago was me just kind of clanging the bowl as I did. What I did at that moment was I just struck the bowl with the wood side, and it gave a little higher tone to it. Now, if I strike the bowl with the suede side, a little lower tone. And then if I strike the bowl with a felt mallet, very low tone.
Yeah.
So you can get all sorts of different sounds out of the bowls. They're all like snowflakes. I mean, they have so many unique characters to them because of the way that they're hand hammered as well. So every single time they're hammering the bowl, all of those atoms are being compressed in different ways in that specific area of the bowl.
Excellent. Thank you. That's very helpful.
But the interesting thing that you were talking about sound as well too, there's some great TED Talks, and I wish I remember this guy's name, but I think if you just look up TED Soundscapes, I think he's got like a company called Soundscapes, and he's in the business of creating sound environments. So for example, you own a retail store, and whether it's a new age shop or a clothing store, and you have a certain demographic you're trying to go through, to promote your products to, he will help to create a soundscape that will make that person feel comfortable in your environment.
Wow.
So it's definitely something that has been studied, and it's being studied now more by businesses. And it's interesting also that commercials are doing this now also. If anybody's ever heard of tingshas, I don't have any with me, but they're those little chimes that you ring together, and they make a really high sound.
Okay.
That real high sound, it's like a clearing sound, but it also grabs your attention. So now if you just start kind of paying attention over the next week, if you watched anything online or you watched some TV or something and listened to some commercials, you'll notice that a lot of people are now using a sound in the beginning because it grabs your attention also. So you can use sound for all sorts of different things. This TED Talk that I watched was so interesting because he talked about office environments and people that work in cubicles. If you work in cubicles and don't have a private office, your productivity at work goes down by 70%.
Oh.
So you have all those other sounds around you. You're trying to get your work done or whatnot. But if you move that same employee to a private office, their productivity goes right back up 70% to that.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people aren't aware of bowl therapy. I was aware of the bowls and sound baths until I took the course and realized the therapy, and I benefited from it very much. But would you say that there are advantages to the sound bowl therapy over regular massage therapy, in your opinion? I mean, I know there's probably advantages and disadvantages to both, but in your opinion, what differentiates the two?
Well, one thing is a no touching with the bowls, that you just let the bowl do the touching. So if you're working with somebody that has a lot of trauma, PTSD, different things like that, or they have a trauma from just being touched, which is, there's a lot of people like that. I had a student in one of my classes. It was actually the first time he lied down on a table before because he didn't want someone to touch him and things. And that was an interesting experience that we went through just with that. So you have that no touch aspect. And when I'm working with a client, I want them to feel like my presence is there, but I don't want them to feel like anything else about me is there. So I really like to let the bowls just kind of do everything. But the vibration reaches your muscles and muscle tension on a more cellular level deeper. So you could test this very easy of how far vibration will go through an object. So we're able to penetrate the body, the muscles, the tissues way more than even the deepest tissue, getting in there type of a massage, but also in a gentler way.
Mhm.
We teach a lot of massage therapists, and they love how gentle this is. A, because they spend a lot of time, people say, no, harder, jack, like,
Right.
but also if you think about that, that also creates a little bit of trauma in the body as well too. I mean, the body's not meant to be to be
Trauma.
in
Yeah.
Like that.
Yeah.
Well, I know that in your course, which I found obviously absolutely amazing, because I went on to get my license. But what I loved about it was the concrete ways you demonstrated or had the teachers demonstrate to us the effectiveness of vibration. We used the balloon with the water and played the bowl, and were able to visually see the vibration and how much, and to realize our bodies, and if I get this wrong, please correct me, 60% water. So
And there's no exact fact on this water thing.
I'm
So
not
it's like
saying
60
that.
to 85%.
Yeah. Okay. I may be
Depends how
90.
much water you drank today, really.
Right, right.
That's right.
And then we got into the cymatic frequencies, which I found now I have to ask this because I should know, but I don't. When you play, for example, a C note, will the cymatic, which is the vibration pattern that is made in the water, will it always be the same with each note, or are those like snowflakes? Are they different depending on how hard you hit them? Or
How hard you struck the bowl would affect it as well, but if you were to strike it the same way each time, and that bowl was the same frequency, you should generally get the same pattern out of it.
okay, yes.
So that would virtually give the same, it would give the same type of pattern. However, it's hard to strike it, as you know, as a practitioner, exactly consistent. In fact, those snowflake bowls that are so unique, that's what's so unique about them. You're like, I struck it the exact same way, but I got a little bit of a different sound to it. But generally, if you had a perfect pitch bowl, like a crystal bowl, for example, that we could dial down to an exact frequency, one singular frequency, every time you played that bowl, you'd get the exact same pattern.
Could you explain the difference? Because that was one of my questions. Is I'm fascinated with the crystal bowls compared to the metal bowls, and also the what am I trying to think? Precious stones, the bowls that are made with garnets, and how are those different from the metal bowls?
Well, the metal bowls, you have two different types of metal bowls. You have the hand-hammered metal bowls, which have been the most popular in the past, but now we have these more or less expensive cast bowls also.
Mhm.
So there's a difference in those. You have a difference in sound and also metal mixture. So the hand-hammered bowls are going to be bronze. Those are going to be your copper and tin, and those are going to have multiple harmonics and overtones as well. So when you listen to that bowl, when I strike that bowl, you're not hearing one sound. You're hearing a symphony of sounds all together. As we get into the metal cast bowls, those normally have one, or sometimes they'll have one frequency, one overtone, but they normally just have one sound or one
Mhm.
tone, one frequency. And then the same with the crystal bowls, those will have one tone or one sound or one frequency. So it's a pure tone. One thing I really like about the metal bowls, if you just have one bowl as opposed to a crystal bowl, is that if you just play one crystal bowl, you just get one tone with it. And one tone can also be a little bit agitating if you listen to the same tone
Mhm.
over and over again. And in fact, in nature, we never have a singular tone that comes out in
Right.
nature. There's actually only one circumstance that animals create a singular tone in nature, and that's when they're in fear and in stress. So, for example, the lion is chasing you in the woods.
Right.
A loud, shrill scream is
Right.
appropriate for the moment.
Right.
But that's the only time we hear one pure tone. So like when I use the crystal bowls, I always like to mix them with two or three so I can get some different sounds out of those as well too.
So Jeff, if I was to come as a client, and I wanted to get a session, say, and this might be helpful for our listeners that this is new for them, and so they're thinking about and hearing this, and they get excited about it and want a session, and they go to that session. I'm not sure how to frame the question, although I'm thinking about the sounds and I'm thinking about the frequencies and I'm thinking about you as the practitioner, me as your client, and I'm going to lay there. Is there a certain process sequence that you're going to go through as a practitioner, and that me as a client will just adjust to those tones, or will my body, know what to accept and not? I know I'm not making myself really clear here, but the idea is that sometimes, our bodies have a certain intelligence to them. Our body knows what it needs. And so if I'm going to go to a session and you're going to play frequencies, is overall, I'm just going to have one type of experience, and that is just to relax? Or could I get more out of that session that I may not be expecting to get out of?
Yeah, and I like to explain it specifically as a relaxation therapy and a relaxation technique.
Okay.
And
Okay.
the reason why I do that is I don't want to give you any expectations that you're going to have an experience that you're not going to have.
Okay.
This also, if you give that, what I notice is people that have given that to their clients, they give them, oh, you could see colors and go through this experience where you leave your body, which happens, and people
Right.
go through this meditative state where they, oh my gosh, I feel like I was floating and I saw these colors and everything else. And if you tell somebody that and they don't see colors and they
Yes.
don't have that experience,
Yes.
then they feel like they did something wrong.
Okay.
They feel like they were gypped in the session. They feel, all sorts of things. So you create that, they're creating that for themselves,
Sure.
basically. So I try to say, I want to explain as much to my clients of what's going to happen and what's going on and physically what will happen, where I'm placing the bowl so they don't get surprised by it.
Right.
But I like to leave everything kind of up to them as much as possible and not put those things out there. And then in the beginning, I'll have an interview with them. And then at the end, I'll have also an exit interview and just talk
Nice.
about their experience.
Nice.
And because sometimes people want to say, is this normal? Is it normal to see colors? Or I felt like I was floating, or I felt like I was 4 years old again, playing in a sandbox, or, all these different types of experiences. And I just listen and mostly people ask me, is it normal? It's like, what is normal today?
Right.
Your experience, the way you experience that is perfectly normal because it's your experience.
Yeah. I like that. That helps a lot. Thanks for clarifying that. It's going in with no expectations. You have the experience that you have, and that's it. So that's,
and if you came back to me as a client the second time and you were like, Jeff, I want to try this again. I've heard it was helpful. My friend John has tried this many times and it was helpful to them, but I couldn't get relaxed during this or whatnot. Then I changed the way, the session.
Right.
I would change it. I would turn it into more of a meditation like we did in the beginning, give them a focus and whatnot. And but at first I just let people experience it.
Yeah.
And
Awesome.
that's what I love to do with my classes. Everybody in my classes is like, how am I going to feel?
Right.
I have no idea how you're going to feel.
Right.
I have no clue.
And
Cool.
you started to talk about animals. I'd love to segue into animals now.
Oh, I was thinking that as well. Yeah.
The benefits that animals have.
Yep.
And also we want to make sure that we
charities.
promote your sanctuary with the elephants so that we, with your approval, can put a link so that people know how to provide support. But could you share how you began with the sanctuary and how did you find out these elephants love the bowls?
Yeah.
So it didn't start off with me. It started off with a client and a good friend of mine, Linda Chambers, and she's from Bozeman, Montana. And I believe it was in 2006 or so. And she actually grew up in Singapore. And so she traveled a lot throughout Asia. And then she kind of started a little shop in Bozeman and would sell things from Thailand and different places and kind of all over from Asia. So she would go to these elephant sanctuaries just to go help out. You kind of go and they have programs, elephant daycare. So you would go take care of an elephant for the day. You would bathe them and feed them and things like that. And then they would charge you to do all of that. And then that's what paid for taking care of the elephants. So I believe she went to this sanctuary probably 3 or 4 times. And then the owner of the sanctuary was mentioning just like the different problems that he was dealing with, mostly emotional, some physical problems with the elephants. And what I mean by that is a lot of these elephants came from abused situations. In Thailand, up to 10 years ago, elephants were used in the logging industry. So for example, you cut a tree at the top of the mountain, the elephant would drag that log down. They were also like farm animals or part of a family as well too. But it turned for a while, for maybe 30 or 40 years or so, where they were used a lot in industry. So those animals were really mentally had issues and then physically had issues as well.
Mm-hmm.
So obviously, if the log starts going faster than the elephant, they can get physically hurt. But after that, they're done working all day, they were kept in cages. And so they had no social interaction whatsoever.
Right.
So animals or animals in general are social animals, but the elephants especially are very, very social. When a mother gets pregnant, she usually will find another mother within her herd, and then that mother would have already had a baby, and that mother guides her through the whole pregnancy.
Wow.
Fascinating.
And through the birth process as well. So if you're stuck in a cage your whole entire life and you're working, and you don't get that social interaction with other elephants other than working and seeing them over in the next cage, all that nature was kind of taken out of them.
Mm-hmm.
So that was an issue they were having at this elephant sanctuary, was just being able to get the elephants to kind of move on from their old life and get used to the new life and work through mostly emotional trauma, but a little bit of physical trauma as well too. So I'll give you the first case that they did. Linda had gone back to Thailand, and she brought her singing bowls, and they were having an issue with one of the mothers where the mother was not feeding the baby for very long. And what's interesting about a female elephant is that their breasts are underneath their kind of front leg.
Mm-hmm.
So in order for them to feed, they have to move their front leg out to expose the nipple for the baby.
Yep.
And this is also a relaxed state. You know, by moving their leg out, they go into a relaxed state, and then the baby can feed. Normally in nature, this is about 45 seconds, each feeding, but of course that happens multiple times per day.
Mm-hmm.
And then they breastfeed for 4 years. So it's a very, very
Wow.
long process as well too. What they were finding was these elephants that came from captivity, they were kind of annoyed with their babies in general. Like they weren't used to growing up in that herd and family environment. So they didn't want to feed their babies, and they were also a little stressed out. So what's interesting, we think of Thailand and Asia, and they have all these magic herbs and different cultures that they've been using for healing and things for years, but their solution to this was tranquilizers. So let's give the mother some tranquilizers, get her relaxed, and then when she's relaxed, then she'll slowly release her front foot and allow her baby to feed. And so they were able to, through tranquilizers, get the mothers to accept the babies better and get the feedings to last longer like they would in nature.
Mm-hmm.
Now, of course, we all know this, that if the mother gets a tranquilizer, that's going into the mother's body.
Right.
And of course, that's making it into the milk as well, too. And then the baby's getting some of that also. So now we have 2 drug addicts that we've created with that.
Right.
And, one thing, Western medicine is wonderful. It does so many wonderful things for so many people. But one thing we know about drugs specifically, no matter what the drug is, the more we take it, the less it works.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
The more we take any sort of drug, our body will get used to it and we'll need to take more of it, whether we're talking about blood pressure medication or anything like that. So that's kind of what happened with the tranquilizers. And so Linda was thinking, okay, we've got to try something different. Let's try using a singing bowl. And she just did this on a whim, brought her bowl, and then the baby was ready to feed, and she played the bowl for the mother for 15, 20 minutes. And the mother got really, really relaxed and just fed the baby.
Oh.
And like immediately, it happened. I have all sorts of interesting things that happen with human clients, but with animals, they don't have all the baggage that we have. So they just shift so much easier out of that old trauma. So just by playing the bowl for 15, 20 minutes, the mother got into a relaxed state and was able to feed the baby. And in that time, not only was she feeding for 45 seconds, but now up to a minute or up to a minute and a half with the singing bowls, where the tranquilizers couldn't even do that, to go that long, to get her that relaxed, because she was just kind of naturally relaxed. And I know, Deb, you've probably heard the term sound stoned before.
Yeah.
These elephants, you could see it in their eyes. 15 minutes, their eyes, like they just start going out, and they're these huge 10,000-pound creatures that I'm taking this small bowl, and like all of a sudden they're looking at me like, what did you just do to me? It's this instant hypnotic state of relaxation.
Beautiful.
So that's how that all started. And then I bring a group every year of people, and we go to Chiang Mai and we work with the elephants. And every year we just have something that happens that's just miraculous, really. Whether it's we had an elephant that had a foot infection, and she had to have some medicine put on her foot in kind of a fluid bag. So we had to put the fluid bag around her foot, and had to get her to just, this 10,000-pound animal, to just stay there for 20 minutes while the medicine penetrated and helped with the infection. And we did that all with sound. Wow. We had a rambunctious teenager. This guy would not, he would move constantly, would never stop and whatnot. 15, 20 minutes with the bulls in the afternoon when elephants never lay down. He starts laying down. I've got this picture, and this teenager, and it's just amazing. It's just amazing to see that. But I also find it so unique with animals, where they're so much more, I guess, in tune with nature and with sound itself.
Yeah.
That they shift so much quicker.
You have a beautiful dog, right?
Yes.
Yes. And I assume your dog loves the bulls.
He has to, whether
no choice there.
Yeah, I think well, I know with the elephants, I hope you get to go next year. I hope that it's the trip is back on. One of my instructors, Beth, said that it was one of the best experiences of her life, that when you began playing the bulls, a baby elephant or baby elephants would run, that they know, they love the sound and they know what it means.
It would draw them to the sound.
Right.
Yeah.
So I'm hoping, fingers crossed.
So the idea too, when you think about the babies, is if we can get the babies that have mothers with trauma, and get these babies, because the babies can sense the mom's trauma from the past.
Mm-hmm.
We can all sense that from each other, even, and things.
Sure.
So the babies are sensing mom's trauma. They don't know where it came from. They don't know, how that happened. They just sense it. But now if we can bring those babies into a state of relaxation with mom using sound, and they grow up that way, then they're going to be able to access that anytime in their life, which is something that I really would like to do in the future with children, humans, because we need that. Everybody's just running all over the place. We got to go take the kids here. We got to go to the grocery store. Everybody's got this laundry list that they've got to do every day. And people just don't take that 2 minutes, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 30 minutes to just relax.
I even think of the applications in schools, Jeff, like even if you had, beginning a classroom session with sound, maybe before an exam is where, anxiety gets heightened, and the instructor plays some sound, some bowls just before the exam, and even after, just before leaving the class. I think that would be really profound. That would be really cool, I think, to have that.
And we've been working with a few Montessori schools. Of course, that's where it would start.
Right.
And the Montessori schools have been buying bowls, and they've been using that. We had one Montessori school 10 years ago that I sold a bowl to, that they decided to put one in each classroom. Wow. And instead of having the bell that we hear in school, they would play the bowl.
Yes.
And I didn't think much about it at that time, but a few years later, I went and had lunch with my nephew at his school, and I heard that school bell. And it's a jarring experience. It's a high sound. It's meant to be loud, and it's meant to get you to get up and move to the next class or period. But this is the sounds that we're training our kids with every single day. Are these sounds of, oh, here's this alarm. It's an alarm every day between every class period. Hurry up and go to the next class period, and be ready. But of course, Montessori schools think a little bit different, so they're using the bowls between class periods, which I think is awesome.
Well, I know we're running out of time, and if you could give us your website to put on as a link to our show, sure, and Maria will do that, and also with the elephants, the sanctuary, any information you'd like our listeners to know about, to learn about VSA, Vibrational Sound Therapy, and the elephant sanctuary.
Yeah, we can post those all in the show notes. So for listening audience who's interested in diving deeper and getting to know your work more, and even have an opportunity to take classes and things like that, we'll put all that information in the show notes.
So the website is just vibrationalsound.com. Okay. So you can go there and learn more about the classes. But also, if you're not interested in the classes, no problem. There's also practitioners all over the country that are listed there. So if you are interested in trying it, there's more than likely one in your area. And you can talk with a few different ones and see who would work best for you as far as your personality and who you want to work with. And as far as the elephant sanctuary is called Patara, that's Patara. It's Patara Elephant Farm.
Okay.
Their donate button, I can send you in an email after we get off the call, but they have a PayPal donate button. And one of the biggest things right now is I know we're all hurting financially, and this is something that I think that we all kind of need to help each other through this moment. But Thailand, since March 1st, has not allowed one tourist to enter the country, and that's still, as of today, I believe they still have that ban at least until August 1st. Such a large part of their economy is tourism.
Right.
Oh,
So, they've got, I think, 68 elephants at the sanctuary that they've got to feed, and I don't know how many tons of food those things eat a day, but it's a lot. So it's quite expensive. So I've been trying to raise as much money as possible for them, because they have zero income coming in. In fact, when we left, March 8th was kind of the last group that they had. So I know it's been really, really difficult for them. And even if it's $10, it really, really helps out. So I'll email you that link as well too, that people can donate by PayPal.
perfect.
And it's a really, really good cause.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for all your work and
Yeah.
all that you've done.
It's been
Thank you.
wonderful, Jeff. Thank you.
Greatly
Really,
appreciate
really a
it.
pleasure meeting you. And you would like to explore more of this in the future. We maybe get another connection with you and
Yeah, sounds great.
share some more. So thank you so much.
No problem.
Really appreciate you and the work that you're doing, and have a great rest of your week. And we'll talk soon again, I'm sure.
And I'll see you soon at the retreat. I'll be there.
At least the virtual retreat. This
The virtual
Absolutely.
retreat, right.
Absolutely.
next year, I owe you something. A big hug.
Sounds good. Thank you, Jeff.
All right, take care. Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.